Welcome if you dare. You've stepped into a world where shadows whisper, where every creak in the floor holds a secret. And tonight, you're about to hear a story that will haunt your dreams. Before we begin, make sure you're not alone, or you're ready to uncover what really happened in today's story. Don't forget to subscribe if you're brave enough, because what lurks in this channel is far more terrifying. Let's begin. In the quaint village of Amberwave, nestled between rolling hills and dense, whispering forests, peculiar tales were woven into the lives of its people like threads in an ancient tapestry. Yet, none were as intriguing as the stories surrounding Granny May, the kindly, eccentric elder of the village known for her wildly unpredictable antics and a peculiar penchant for concocting potions with dubious effects. One serene morning, as the sun cast its golden light upon the cobblestone paths, Granny May sat in her little kitchen, surrounded by jars filled with strange ingredients. The shelves bowed under the weight of herbs dried to crumbling wisps, powders of unnaturally brilliant colors, and tiny vials that glimmered like liquid jewels in the sunlight. Cackling softly, she set about brewing her most ambitious potion. Yet her cat, Moonbeam, watched from his perch on the windowsill, tail curled around himself in regal disinterest. Across the village, her granddaughter Tessa busied herself in their shared garden, pulling weeds and humming a tuneless song. 17 and filled with restless energy, Tessa cherished her life with Granny May, yet often wondered what grand adventures lay beyond the hills. The villagers' whispers about her grandmother's antics both worried and excited her. She couldn't shake the feeling that life with Granny May was an adventure all its own. As Tessa wrapped her morning chores, Granny May's voice rang out from the house. "Tessa, darling, come inside. Love, I need a taste tester." Tessa's lips curled into a fond smile as she entered the cozy chaos that was Granny's kitchen. The room smelled of citrus and something peppery that tingled in her nostrils. "What is it this time, Gran?" Tessa queried with amusement. "A marvel, my dear. A potion that could change our understanding of life," Granny May responded, her eyes twinkling with mischief. "A switch of souls. Imagine walking in someone else's shoes, or rather, living in their body for a bit." Tessa raised an eyebrow, part curious, part skeptical. "Are you sure that's safe?" "Absolutely," Granny May replied, hands on her hips and chin high, "though I've only tried it on mice so far, and one of them did start squeaking in French." Despite her reservations, Tessa trusted her grandmother, who had a knack for turning lunacy into wonder, so with a shrug, she allowed Granny May to pour the shimmering liquid into 2 teacups. "Ready, darling," Granny chirped. "As I'll ever be," Tessa answered, lifting the cup to her lips. The potion was surprisingly sweet, with undertones of mint and a hint of something earthy. In the moments that followed, a strange sensation swept over them like a waking dream. Tessa blinked and gasped as the kitchen, so familiar only seconds ago, seemed to grow larger around her. Simultaneously, Granny May felt lighter, her joints less creaky, for there, in Granny May's perspective, Tessa saw herself gawping in pure shock, hands rushing to inspect the face she wore. Meanwhile, Granny, with the newfound dexterity of youth, pranced around the kitchen giddily. They tried to speak only to find their voices swapped just as completely as their perspectives. "Oh my," Tessa exclaimed, now in Granny May's voice, laughter bubbling up. It worked. For the next hours, their laughter and occasional shriek of surprise could be heard spilling out into the street. As they tested their new limits, Tessa marveled at her newfound agility, even if it was through Granny May's body. Granny, on the other hand, relished the vitality stolen from her granddaughter's youth. Yet, as the day waned, They realized the fun came with unforeseen challenges. In Tessa's body, Granny May found herself overwhelmed by flashes of teenage thought, insecurities, and dreams intricately laced with her granddaughter's spirited essence. Tessa, navigating her grandmother's adept mind, glimpsed decades of wisdom mixed with memories sweet and bitter. Exhausted but content, they decided it was time to switch back. Tessa flopped into Granny's favorite armchair with a sigh in her voice that was not her own, ready to go back to being mischief-managed. Granny, suppressing a chuckle in Tessa's desire to dance, nodded. "Oh, yes. While it's nice to be young, I quite miss my creaks and quirks. Bring on the gray hair." They returned to the kitchen where Granny May adjusted the potion. With another clink of their teacups, they swallowed the revised mixture. The world seemed to shift once more, and they returned to their original bodies. Tessa shook her head, feeling herself settle back into her skin, as Granny gave her knees an appreciative pat. "What a delightful escapade," Granny May declared, eyes reflecting satisfaction. Tessa nodded, her heart filled with warmth. "Thank you, Gran. I think I needed to see life through different eyes." As the sun began its descent behind the Amber Hills, they sat together, sharing stories of what they had learned about each other and themselves. And so life in Amberwave continued, a little more magical than before, as whispers of Granny May and her fantastical escapades once again drifted about the village. Tessa returned to her garden with renewed vigor, knowing that adventures awaited not just beyond the fields, but within the souls closest to her. This adventure, as Granny May would say, was just a glimpse of the wonders one could discover when curiosity led the way, and Tessa was eager to follow. In the tranquil village of Murkmire, a place whispered about only in family tales, there stood a house known as the House That Dips, perched atop a hill. It appeared ordinary at first glance, a cottage with ivy-clad brick walls and a thatched roof that seemed perpetually dappled with golden sunlight. Yet, inside lived Granny Wibble, whose eccentricities brought life to the house's infamous nickname. Granny Wibble was no ordinary grandmother. Her hair was a wild mane of silver, often dotted with crumbs from her last baking experiment. In her eyes twinkled with secrets older than the hills themselves. Her voice, though crackling with the weight of years, was as lively as a summer brook. Children found comfort in her stories, spun from webs of words that stitched the past to the present with colorful threads of magic. The villagers were mostly fond of Granny Wibble, though some were suspicious of her strange habits. She was known for using Chitteroot, a luminescent herb found only in the depths of the weeping willow woods. But few knew why she dared to play with such enchantments. To Granny, Chitteroot was just another spice, something to stir into her mystical teas or her famous puddle pies. Pies that always rippled, as if they were pools under a gentle breeze. Every morning at dawn, the house would dip into the earth, just a little, like a curtsy to the sun. Sunbeams would paint new patterns in Granny's kaleidoscope of stained glass, casting sparkling rainbows across her walls. And as twilight's purple shadows gathered about, the house would rise again, with a rickety sigh, back to its original perch. "Why does it dip, Granny?" young Elora asked one afternoon, her eyes wide, peering over the rim of a mug filled with Granny's special Chitteroot cocoa. Granny chuckled, a sound like pebbles tumbling in a stream. "Oh, my little starling, that's because our house is a courtesy house. It shows respect to the earth it stands upon. And sometimes," she winked, "it dips to hide secrets underneath." Elora trembled with excitement. Her small fists clenched the edge of her chair, eager for more of Granny's stories, and pondered over those secrets buried beneath footfall and floorboards. That evening, curiosity pulled Elora from bed with whispers of adventure. The moon hung like a lantern in the sky, guiding her through the loft down to the heart of the house. Tap, tap, tap went her slippers on the wooden floors as she crept into the parlor. There, nestled behind dusty curtains, lurked the trapdoor Elora had often dreamed of finding. Her fingers, overcome with anticipation, pried it open with some effort. Inside was a ladder, leading down into cool, damp darkness. Granny's too old to climb down there, Elora told herself, satisfied she had discovered a secret just for her young, fearless heart. She descended carefully, her feet finding rungs, smoothed by time and invisible handprints. The cellar was an unexpected marvel. Roots dangled like tapestry from the ceiling, woven around hundreds of glowing jars. Inside each jar was a little world, tiny villages bustling beneath luminescent skies, forests teeming with critters no larger than a fingernail, and streams of Chitterroot beer merrily bubbling along cobblestone streets. Elora marveled at the soft glow, her mind ablaze with wonder at the miniature universes hovering in the dark. She stretched a hand towards a jar, entranced by a scene with a shimmering waterfall. "You found my secret sanctuary," came Granny Wibble's voice softly from behind her. Elora whipped around, eyes wide. "Granny, I didn't mean." "Hush, now, child. I'm pleased to share this with you. Some secrets are meant to be kept, but others, they ain't to be discovered by the right spirit," Granny said, her voice half a sigh, half a song. Granny Wibble explained how each jar held a piece of a world vanished long ago, preserved by the sorcery of Chitterroot, each a testament to the lands she once wandered in her youth as a keeper of worldly memories. She had settled in Murkmire where time flowed slow and gentle to safeguard these whispering legacies. But what happens to them? Elora asked, her fingers lightly tracing the glass. "When the last of the Chitterroot fades, they will release back into the flow of life and memory," Granny replied. "And then, sweet Elora, a new keeper will step up to continue the dances of memory and dreams." Elora nodded solemnly, understanding the weight and wonder of the duty Granny suggested would someday be hers. The house, with its magic that dipped with the dawn and rose with dusk, encapsulated the timelessness of the worlds below a portal of sorts, root-bound and memory-kept until the cycle turned once more. Though only Granny and Elora now shared the secret, a palpable warmth settled between them, a bond forged by the embrace of hidden knowledge and the gentle promise of tomorrow's guardianship. And so, the villagers continued to pass stories about the house that dips, intrigued by its eccentricities, unaware of the worlds that lay below their feet, or the little girl who now held their future lore cupped gently like morning dew in her palms. In the small town of Shadow Creek, where mist clung to the cobblestones like an insidious second skin, a peculiar rumor had long disrupted the night. People claimed Ellen Cartwright, the town's oldest resident, was not entirely of sound mind. They called her the crazy grandma, a label that stuck tighter than the autumn leaves littering the streets. Ellen lived in an ancient, sagging house at the edge of Graven Hill, with its creaky shutters and perpetual twilight engulfed by towering oaks. Children dared each other to knock on her door as proof of their courage, but few dared, especially since the night that Jack Turner came back to life. Jack had died a young soldier in a far-off, forgotten war. His body, when it finally returned for burial, brought with it the chill of untold horror. His mother, Esther Turner, grieved until her tears ran dry. But it was on the anniversary of his death, when the veil between worlds grows thin, according to the old calendars, that the town first saw him again. Ellen, with her eyes set deep and sharp and her hands like worn twigs, was muttering an incantation in her parlor that night, her voice underscoring the eerie tick of a grandfather clock, forming a melody only the lost could hear. It was said she could see them, the nearly forgotten ones, wandering between here and there, forever seeking a light in their darkness. "Come, boy." Ellen's voice cracked through the silence. drawing the shadows into something almost tangible. And then, as if placid bones were never meant to seal him, Jack stepped from the shadows into the parlor's muted glow. Jack's arrival wasn't soft or unnoticed. His was the presence marked by disruption, a careening staircase, a thought shock into the marrow of those who saw him. He knocked on his mother's door just as the clock struck midnight. As the town held its breath, "Ma," he called, his voice a distant echo. But when Esther opened the door, the sight of him brought screams instead of joy. Ellen knew her meddling had consequence. She watched from the shadows, unseen, as Jack's presence breathed old fears into the town. His eyes, once vibrant pools of youthful exuberance, now carried the endless gray of overcast skies and things best left buried. "Why must you linger, boy?" Ellen murmured when Jack found his confession in the damp air of her parlor again. "Confessions are for God, ain't they?" His lips curved weakly, as if remembering how smiles once belonged. "Not every night is a devil," she whispered. "Go where the peace finds you, lad." "Peace?" Jack laughed, a sound that cracked the room open. "I saw what no man's eyes should bear. There's no peace in shadows." His visits continued, a spectre haunting his grieving mother and the town alike. But there was something more behind his restless return, a tether of unfinished destiny, or perhaps a hidden purpose untold. In the heart of the town, suspicion curled round Ellen like ivy. The townsfolk, having had their fill of the unease, confronted her beneath a sickle moon. "The boy cannot find his rest," declared Milo, a burly man who feared no ghost yet jumped at shadows. "He ain't meant to stay." Ellen stood firm, her gaze as unwavering as the tides. "What curse have you cast?" The townspeople pressed, voices sharpening like blades. "No curse," Ellen said, her voice low. "It is a call. His heart must find what binds him for those yonder call him by name." Yet, Ellen didn't share what she truly saw, that Jack's return marked more than just a family's unmet despair. Deep in Graven Hill, a darker force stirred, its tendrils wrapping around him, insistent and eager. Ellen knew she had little time. That night, as paint breaths fogged her window pane, she whispered to the morning's cusp, calling upon her deepest craft. Jack came again, the boundary between life's embrace and death's promise blurred under her gaze. "What is left for me here?" Jack whispered, his voice fading even as his form grew crisper. "One choice remains." Ellen paused, as visions unearthed the future buried in the past. If Jack's soul could reconcile the theft of life by those unseen, perhaps then he would find his way. Ellen took his hands, cold as midnight's breath, and led him through the pendulous, echoing doorway to a place only she knew. There, under the twinkling gaze of distant stars, they found those who longed for named souls who sang him home. Morning unveiled a town gripped by silence but freed from dread. Ellen's chair sat empty next to the fire, and across Shadow Creek, people spoke of Jack's gentle departure. Time never eroded the earth's subtle whispers of their story. It merely settled. Ellen, remembered as a crazy grandma, was less of a witch and more of a keeper to some. Jack's bravery refrained from lament in a place where shadows softened under the weight of unburdened souls. And so, deep in the fabric of what Shadow Creek would become, was woven the legend of a dead boy finding his way back, guided by the unfathomable wisdom of a woman who knew more than she ever shared. Out of myth and shadow, they found peace together, and the veil between worlds stood eternally imperceptible again. In the heart of the Appalachian Mountains, veiled by thick forests and rugged terrain, lay a village forgotten by time. Its few inhabitants lived simple lives, untroubled by the outside world, until the arrival of Grandma Edna, a woman whose very presence seemed to taint the air with unease. Whispers of Grandma Edna's past floated like ghosts through the village. She had wandered into town one misty autumn morning with nothing but an ancient suitcase and eyes that could pierce the murkiest of souls. Her hair was a tangled silver, resembling gnarled roots, and her smile was a cryptic crescent that rarely made an appearance. Beneath her exterior of fragile age, there lurked something inhuman, a fact as incontrovertible as the shadows that twisted in the corners of her eyes. The villagers had never seen anyone sleep as much as Grandma Edna. Her small, crooked cottage perched at the edge of the village seemed to be a place where time itself was. Tangled and trapped, she would slumber for days, nestled in a nest of quilts and books filled with cryptic symbols, only to awaken at twilight, when the air felt electric with unknown possibilities. It all began soon after her arrival. The first to fall asleep was Old Man Burrow, known for his nightly rounds of the village's quaint streets. He was found under the old oak, snoring peacefully, immovable as a stone. Try as they might, no one could wake him. Then, silently like ink and water, the sleeping sickness spread. One by one, the villagers succumbed to this inexplicable lethargy, a heavy sleep that filled their dreams with visions they could neither articulate nor escape. Amid this strange epidemic, young Eliza, a resilient girl with a penchant for curiosity, remained untouched. Eliza had always heard tales of witches from her grandmother, whispered late at night beneath the sheets. Something about Grandma Edna struck those same sinister chords in her mind, and she spent her days piecing together the mysterious puzzle of the enchanted slumbers. "You aren't scared of her, are you, Eliza?" asked Thomas, the baker's son, as they perched atop the worn wooden fence surrounding the village graveyard. Thomas, though shaky and unsure, had agreed to help Eliza investigate the cause of their eldest misfortune. "It's not about fear, Thomas. It's about understanding," she replied, her eyes narrowing thoughtfully. "I think she knows something we don't." Under the heavy cloak of a new moon, Eliza's resolve hardened. She devised a plan to confront Grandma Edna directly, with Thomas beside her, as both companion and co-conspirator. They approached the crooked cottage. The moon cast elongated shadows that danced eerily across the overgrown garden. As they reached the door, a chilling breeze swept past, carrying with it a scent reminiscent of old books and forgotten spells. Eliza hesitated only for a moment before knocking firmly. The door creaked open slowly, as if anticipating their arrival. Inside, the cluttered room was alive with shadows. An elaborate candle cast wavering light over shelves teeming with jars of peculiar ingredients. Grandma Edna sat in her chair, eyes closed, thin fingers drumming a soundless rhythm on the armrest. "Ah, visitors so late," she murmured without opening her eyes. Her voice was a rasp that melded seamlessly with the night. "You're curious children, aren't you? We want to know why the village sleeps," Eliza demanded, her voice braver than she felt. Grandma Edna chuckled a sound like rustling leaves and slowly opened her eyes. "The dreams," she whispered, "are very important. You see, this village, it has forgotten its dreams." Thomas shifted anxiously beside Eliza, his courage waning. "But why are they asleep? Why like this?" "Because they need to remember, Grandma," Edna replied softly, rising with an unexpected grace. "I merely opened the gates." She wandered towards an ancient tome lying open on a table, where runes seemed to shift and morph under their gaze. Eliza and Thomas exchanged a glance. Despite the fear and confusion knotting inside her, Eliza felt an odd sense of clarity. "Can we help them wake up?" The old woman smiled, a genuine expression that transformed her face. "Not yet, child, but soon. Once they see what they've forgotten, what they need to keep their hearts beating, they'll awaken." With that, Grandma Edna turned away, humming a tune lost to time. Eliza and Thomas stepped back into the night, the door swinging shut behind them with gentle finality. As dawn broke over the village, tendrils of light seeped into every corner. The sleeping villagers awoke one by one, minds fraught with remnants of dreams and memories, rekindled. And though they found themselves disoriented, scattered whispers revealed a shared revelation, visions of forgotten joys, and innocence once locked away by the demands of reality. With Grandma Edna, the village had walked through the haunting corridors of slumber and emerged into the waking world, not just alive, but alive with possibilities long since dismissed. Yet, the village soon noticed her absence, her cottage empty, as though she'd vanished with the night itself, leaving behind only the scent of old books and hints of forgotten spells. In the end, Eliza understood it was Grandma Edna's gift, a mysterious reminder of the power of dreams and their place in the tapestry of living, gently stitched back into the heart of the Sleepy Hollow. In the small, shrouded town of Eldridge Hollow, whispers of the old Maplewood estate had permeated generations. Locals spoke hushed tales of a cursed mirror, once owned by the house's last resident, a reclusive woman known as Crazy Grandmother. Margaret, her tale, like the cliffs that edged the town, was steeped in mystery and tragedy. For years, the estate had sat vacant, its Gothic arches looming against the sky like skeletal fingers reaching for reprieve. One evening, as a storm gathered on the horizon, a lone figure made his way up the hill. James, an undergrad anthropology student with a penchant for urban legends, was determined to uncover the truth behind Margaret's infamous mirror. Guided by a map barely decipherable, James approached the warped wooden door. A flash of lightning illuminated the doorway as it creaked open with a sound that seemed to echo from another era. Dust motes danced in the stale air, revealing a foyer lined with portraits whose eyes tracked his every move. "Get a grip, James," he muttered to himself, shrugging off a chill that had nothing to do with the dropping temperature. With cautious steps, he navigated through the maze of rooms until he found himself standing before a door that seemed out of place. It was adorned with an intricate frame, where gnarled hands seemed to extend toward its center, inviting yet foreboding. Inside, the room was sparse, save for the object he sought. The mirror that reflects death was said to be mounted on an oak stand as tall as it was wide. Its surface appeared calm, but its depths held countless stories, some believed to be harrowing and others utterly devastating. He approached it with both a thrill and a trepidation, expecting perhaps the sudden outburst of latent spirits. Instead, he saw only his reflection, a young man grappling with the sepulture of the past in a mystifying dance with the present. Yet, as his focus sharpened, the shadows in the room twisted unnaturally. The faintest whisper hung in the air, growing insistent. "Margaret," it sighed. The old woman's voice, though disembodied, was as clear as if she stood beside him. James's heart thrummed in his chest as curiosity overcame common sense. "Why are you here?" the voice continued, resonant yet weary. "I want to understand you and what you saw," he replied, his voice steady with resolve but edged with caution. "I want to know about the mirror." A painful silence followed, thick with the weight of untold truths. Then, an image appeared beside his own reflection, an older woman, face lined with the hardships of a turbulent life, eyes gleaming with an untold depth. "You believe this mirror is cursed?" Margaret's voice was not what he expected. There was wisdom and sadness, not madness as the town claimed. "I do, though I don't know why," James confessed, glancing at the reflected figure with awe. Margaret offered a small nod. "Curses are only real if you surrender to them. The mirror is a window, a reflection of what was once and what might be." The atmosphere shifted darkly, the space around him morphing into a scene of shadow and memory. He was in a room, the Same room, but populated with people from another time. They were crying, their faces locked in expressions of anguish, a mistake I couldn't undo. A moment of desperation, she explained, her voice reverberating alongside the ghostly wails. I couldn't save them. James saw figures writhing in pain, recognizable by their pallor. Margaret's family, caught in the grip of a chilling epidemic, her face helpless in the thick of a hopeless fight. He swallowed hard, the revelations grounding him in the eerie reality of the past. But why stay? Why haunt this place too? Warn, to bear witness. She pointed to the mirror, and the room shifted back to its decrepit state. Suddenly, understanding washed over James. The mirror didn't inflict death. It demanded acknowledgement of what it showed in shackled versions of the past. Lessons of grief and love lost, UNTENDED. Rain pattered against the windows, a soothing percussion that seemed to recoil the house's burdens. James, staring deeply into Margaret's eyes, nodded. "Thank you," he said, reaching out towards the glass, "for sharing your truth." With a movement as light as a feather's fall, Margaret's image faded. The room felt different, lighter, as if a chapter side closed after ages of resonance. When he eventually turned away, the storm was clearing, unveiling a moonlit path back to Eldritch Hollow. The townspeople, if they asked, would hear only of an adventure, an old house with creaky floors and a harmless, dusty mirror. As his figure diminished on the path, the glow from the estate flickered, but for the first time in decades, it was without the shadow of looming despair. The mirror stayed, its reflective surface now only as forbidding as one's own secrets. A lifetime of warnings echoed through its still surface, forever holding the weight of not curses, but cautions, a testament to the horrors only the mind dares to summon.